So my sister accused me of acting like I was better than her. And my first reaction was, what the fuck are you talking about? But after sitting with it, I realized she wasn't completely wrong. Not because I think I'm better than her, but because I think we were arguing about two different versions of me. And to explain that, I have to take you to the moment it happened. So on my trip back to the US, my wife and I landed at LAX after traveling more than 24 hours, including a 12-hour delay. We were exhausted, delirious. We were running on airport food, caffeine, and whatever emotional support a neck pillow is supposed to provide. And my sister was kind enough to pick us up from the airport. So naturally, we ended up in a full-blown family argument before we even got to In-N-Out. Now, I wish I could tell you this came out of nowhere, but it didn't. The truth is, the fight started long before either of us raised our voices. The drive itself was awkward. Not hostile, just awkward. Like when you're technically close to someone because you're family, but you realize you don't actually really know each other. And before this trip, I had already started noticing something. Whenever we'd talk, she'd start sentences with, "Don't judge me because." And every time she'd say it, I'd think, I wasn't. But after hearing it enough, I started wondering if maybe that's just how I came across. I also noticed that whenever I'd offer advice or tried to help, she'd either politely decline or hit me with a emoji, which in my experience is one of the most passive-aggressive emojis out there. It's somehow both thanks and I don't give a fuck about what you're saying right now at the exact same time. So before this trip, I had already made a decision. Keep things simple. Keep conversation surface level. Don't give advice. Don't talk about yourself too much. Don't accidentally make it weird. Basically, try to be normal, which historically is where I tend to go wrong. So now, we're in the car. Conversation is fine. Awkward. And I remember thinking, what do we actually have in common anymore? Because we don't really text, we don't talk on the phone, we don't know what's going on in each other's lives. So I started looking for something we could both talk about, something we both knew, something we both had context for. And unfortunately, the only thing that came to mind was family drama, which in hindsight wasn't the right move. Because if your relationship already feels fragile, maybe don't use unresolved family conflict as the icebreaker. But here we are. I laughed and said, so to Christine said I'm not allowed to go to Isaiah's graduation. For context, Isaiah's my nephew and one of the main reasons I flew back to LA in the first place. So to me, the whole thing felt kind of ridiculous. Like, how do you even gatekeep a graduation? I genuinely thought she'd laugh. She didn't. She looked at me and said, then why are you going? And before I could even answer, my brain was like, defense! Defense! Because from my perspective, this wasn't even a debate. I had even told the kid, hey, if my being there is gonna make your graduation harder, we can celebrate another day. But he wasn't having it. He texted me, no, you're coming. I'm 18 now, so I choose. I don't care what she says. So in my head, that was the end of the conversation. The kid whose graduation it was had already made a decision. But I guess my sister disagreed. She started telling me shit I already knew. That it wasn't my day, it was Isaiah's day. Which wasn't the part we disagreed on. Because by then, we weren't even arguing about the graduation anymore. And then she was like, you don't understand because you're not a parent. And I was like, what the fuck does that have to do with anything? Seriously, I still don't know. Then she hit me with, you better not be alienating Isaiah from his mom. And that shit set me off. Because I would never, like never. If anything, I go out of my way to do the exact opposite. The last time I saw him, I literally said, your mom doesn't do this because she hates me. She does it because she loves me. So hearing her say that was like, what the fuck? But that still wasn't the part that stuck with me. This was. She said, no, I know you. And something in me just snapped. Because from where I was sitting, she didn't know me. Not this version of me, at least. She didn't know the life I'd built, the work I had done, the person I had spent years trying to become. And that's what hurt. It wasn't that she disagreed with me. It's how certain she was. Like she wasn't talking to me. She was talking to the person she had already decided I was. The youngest sister. The difficult one. The one who always makes things uncomfortable. The fight eventually ended. Not because either of us changed our minds. We had just gotten to our destination. In-N-Out. Which honestly feels like the most California way to end a family fight. You scream at each other, park the car, and then order burgers like nothing happened. But here's the thing I couldn't let go. That sentence, you act like you're better than me, kept replaying in my head over and over again. At first, I kept trying to prove her wrong in my head. I'd replay the conversation, think of better arguments, better examples, better ways I could have explained myself. I was basically given imaginary TED Talks in the shower trying to convince somebody who wasn't even there. And then I caught myself. myself. I had spent weeks trying to answer, how can I get her to better understand me? When maybe that's not the question I needed to be asking. Maybe the better question was, why does she experience me this way? And it wasn't until I answered that question that I realized I don't think she's completely wrong. Not because I think I'm better than her, but because I hate feeling like I'm the youngest. I hate feeling dismissed. I hate feeling underestimated. And I can see how I probably overcompensate because of that. I explain too much. I try too hard to prove that I'm grown, to prove that I know what I'm talking about, to prove that I'm not the person they remember. And even though that's not me trying to act superior, I can absolutely see how it could come off that way to someone else. I spent so much of that fight with my sister trying to defend myself, trying to convince her she had gotten me wrong. And honestly, I don't think any of it brought us any closer to understanding each other, because I think the bullshit I'm unlearning is this: you can't defend yourself into being understood. The harder I tried to convince her who I really was, the more she defended the version of me she had already decided I was. And we just kept talking over each other. So no, I don't think the answer is to stop showing up or to stop being yourself. I just don't think the next chapter gets written with better arguments. I think it gets written with different experiences, because maybe people don't change their minds because of one conversation. Maybe they change their minds because they keep meeting a version of you that no longer fits the story that they've been telling themselves. And maybe that's what I've been getting wrong this whole time. I've spent so much of my life trying to explain who I am, when maybe my job isn't to explain. Maybe my job is to give them an opportunity to finally meet who I am now. I don't know if my sister sees me differently, but I hope she does. Either way, I know I don't want to spend my life trying to defend who I am. I'd rather spend it becoming someone who no longer feels the need to. The funny thing is, that was only my first day of the trip. I still had 3 more weeks left in Los Angeles, which meant I had a choice. I could do what my family has always done, pretend that fight never happened, avoid the awkwardness, hope enough time passes that we both forget about it. Or I could actually practice the thing I coach people to do: repair, push past the discomfort, hang out with her anyway. And what happened next surprised me. I'll tell you about that in the next video. But if stories like this are your thing, I write a newsletter called Tawny Unlearns the BS. I don't send it on a schedule. I send it when life humbles me, when I learn something worth sharing, or when I'm in the middle of unlearning some new bullshit. It's basically this, but in writing. If that sounds like your thing, find a link in the description. Okay, I'm done now. Thanks for coming to my Tawny Talk.